put it to the recorder. So shall we start now? We have nearly 60. So today, as I told you, we are going to discuss about the cash flow statement analysis, and also we'll discuss some concepts with regard to the cash flow statement, such as free cash flow, etc. Right? So let me share the presentation with you. I mean, cash flow statement analysis is not something that you don't know. It is not new for all of you. All of you know the nature of the cash flow statement, the different ways of preparing the cash flow statement, and also as finance students, you may be knowing the meaning of free cash flow. So let's look at some of these concepts again, okay? Let me share my presentation. Right. So cash flow analysis. So what you need to understand is why cash flows are important, or why the statement of cash flow is important. Now here, when we talk about the importance of cash flow statement, we need to consider it from two aspects: relevance and reliability. Now tell me, when it comes to relevance, which is more important, cash or profits? When it comes to relevance, which is more important? Which is more important when it comes to relevance, cash or profits? Tell me, what is more important when it comes to relevance? Now there are two aspects called relevance and reliability. So when it comes to relevance, what is more important? We prepare financial statements normally based on which basis? Accrual basis or cash basis? We prepare financial statements based on accrual basis. So why we prepare financial statements based on accrual basis? Because profits are more relevant, or profits are more important than cash. Obviously, profit is more relevant than cash. But if I want to talk about reliability, then of course, which is more reliable? Which is more reliable? The concept of profit or concept of cash flows? Cash flows are more reliable than profits simply because cash can be verified. You can verify the amount of cash. Now, say for example, in your balance sheet, the amount of cash that you have, you can count and verify. You can show a bank statement. You can show the cash balance. So cash is something which you can verify, but profit is a concept. Profit is a concept. In the previous weeks, we learned how profits can be manipulated. Different people can manipulate profits. They can change accounting principles. They can change accounting estimates. They can treat various expenses in various ways. Say, for example, certain expenses, certain clear expenses, they can show as payments in order to show higher profits. So profits can be manipulated. Therefore, when it comes to reliability, we say cash is more reliable than profits. But when it comes to relevance, remember always, profits are more important, or profits are more relevant than cash flows. So are we clear? Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So reporting by activities. We know when we prepare a statement of cash flows, we prepare cash flow statement by various activities. In other words, we calculate first cash flows for operating activities, cash flows for investment activities, and cash flows for finance activities. So statement of cash flow, SCF means statement of cash flow. Okay, statement of cash flow reports cash receipts and cash payments by operating, financing, and investing activities. So operating activities are the earning related activities of a company that we know. So investing activities are means of acquiring and disposing non-cash assets. So by investing activities, we mean the amounts that we are spending. Now, if we want to make a new investment, then of course we need to spend a particular amount. So there's a cash outflow whenever we make a new investment. Whenever we sell an investment, we get cash inflows. So investing activities are means of acquiring and disposing of non-cash assets. Financing activities are means of contributing, withdrawing, and servicing funds to support business activities. So when you say financing activities, of course you need finances to support both investments as well as operations. So if you take money, if you borrow new money, if you take new capital, then of course it's a cash inflow. If you pay a loan, if you pay, let's say, dividends, then of course those are cash outflows under financing activities. So those differences you need to understand. Okay. Now when it comes to investment activities, if you go for new investment, then of course it's a cash outflow. If you go for, give me 1 second. So when it comes to financing activities, if you take a new loan, then it's a cash inflow. And also if you settle a loan, if you pay a dividend, if you pay, say for example, let's say if there's a repayment of capital, then of course that is considered as a cash outflow. So these differences, of course, these are basic things, but you need to refresh. Okay. So constructing the cash flow statement, we know we can prepare the cash flow statement in two ways: indirect method and direct method. So both methods yield identical results, only the presentation format differs. Now, if I ask you, in both methods, which part of the cash flow statement is different? In both methods, which part of the cash flow statement is different? I mean, I'm sure you have done cash flow statements under both methods, indirect method as well as direct method. So when you prepare a cash flow statement under both these methods, which part of the cash flow statement will be different? Which part will be different? Which part will be common? Yeah, calculating cash flows for operating activities. Because when we calculate cash flows for operating activities, we can determine the amounts either based on the indirect method or based on the direct method. So depending on the method, only the cash flows and operating activities will change. So you know these activities, you know how to prepare this cash flow statement. So without wasting much time, let's go to a question. Okay. So indirect method. This is how you calculate the cash flows from operating activities. You have the net income. You know what net income is. It is the net profit. To the net income, you add in the depreciation as well as amortization expenses, if there are any, because those are non-cash expenses. Then, if there's a gain on sale of assets, then that is deducted. If there's a loss on sale of assets, that is added back. Then you are adjusting the changes in current assets and current liabilities. So if current assets are increasing, then of course it's a cash outflow. If current liabilities are increasing, it's a cash inflow. If current assets are decreasing, it's a cash outflow. It's a cash inflow. And if current liabilities are decreasing, then it's a cash outflow. So these things you know. So basically the same thing in a different way. You can see we have sales. Then of course we have expenses other than depreciation and amortization. We don't take depreciation and as well as amortization because those are non-cash expenses. So sales minus cash expenses. I mean, here they have taken basically sales. Then they have taken sales other than depreciation and amortization. Then they have put back through another line depreciation and amortization. Then we get net income. Then depreciation and amortization added back. Same thing. Depreciation and amortization added back. Gains deducted, losses added back. Then the changes in current assets and current liabilities again adjusted to arrive at the net cash flows from operating activities. Right. Now, if you take this, consider $100. Consider $100 sale on account. On account means on credit. Okay. Consider $100 sale on account in the period of sale. Net income is increased by $100, but no cash has been generated because you are selling on credit. In period of collection, no income is recorded, but you are receiving money. So are we clear? Are we clear? If you create a sales, if you create a sales transaction, or if you do a sales transaction on credit, then of course in the period of sale you record the turnover and you record the profit. Then you record the cash inflow when you are collecting money. So there's a difference between the profit that you record and the cash inflow that you are showing later. So is that clear? I mean, this is a simple example. So is this clear? Is this clear? If you have any questions, please ask. Is this clear? Right. Right. So this is the same thing which I explained you earlier. How we should adjust in the cash flow statement, changes in current assets and current liabilities. So as I explained you, if an asset is increasing, it's a current assets and current liabilities. So if an asset is increasing, it's a cash outflow. If an asset is decreasing, it's a cash inflow. If a liability is increasing, it's a cash inflow. If a liability is decreasing, it's a cash outflow. So is this clear? Is this clear? Right. Right now, look at this example. Constructing the cash flow statement. Okay, we will do the cash flow statement using both methods. So, Gold Corporation, you are given balance sheets for 2 years, year 1 and year 2, and also on a separate column, you are given the absolute value of the change. So, cash year 1 51,000, year 2 75,000, absolute change is 24,000. Receivables in the same way, inventory, prepaid expenses, plant assets, then accumulated depreciation, intangible assets, then accounts payable, accrued expenses, long-term notes payable, mortgage payable, preferred stock, preferred shares, common stock, retained earnings, and total liabilities and equity, as you can see, that is equal with total assets. So on this side, you are given the income statement. Income statement for year 2. Sales 660,000, cost of sales, gross profit, operating expenses, depreciation and amortization, gain on sale of asset, net income. Then we are given 2 notes. Okay, a truck with a cost of 10,000, a net book value of $2,000 was sold during the year for 7,000. There were no other sale of depreciable assets. Dividends paid during year 2, 51,000. So these are the details. Now I will give you about I will give you 10 minutes. I mean, it's not a big cash flow. I will give you 10 minutes. I want you to prepare the cash flow statement using both methods, direct method as well as indirect method. So I will leave the question here, right? I will give you 10 minutes so you can work out the question on your own. Thereafter, I will discuss. Okay. Can we start? How many of you have done? So what is this? In LMS, all lectures, video records are uploaded even though we are unable to access those videos because once click on those videos, it has access permission. Okay. But then I have shared you the same videos through my Gmail. I don't know now. When I was sending an individual email to all of you, I mean I was sending emails to all of you as a group. But then of course, when I was sending the group email, I have given access to each and every individual. I don't know how it works on LMS because to LMS I have just pasted the Google Drive link. So I have pasted my Google Drive link there. Maybe when you click on that link, it may be asking the permission. Uh, but I think the problem is not there if you go through the email. Because when I'm sending the email, I'm giving the individual rights. Individual rights in the sense for the entire team, I'm giving the rights for anyone who's having that link. So if you access the videos through the link or through the email link, I don't think there'll be an issue. But when you try to access the link through LMS, there may be an issue. There may be an issue. So that, of course, you need to discuss. I will tell them that is, of course, something that you need to discuss with them as to how to overcome that issue. Or else, I mean, I assume the email addresses that you all have given to me. Okay, you all have given to me all the email addresses. So I presume those email addresses are correct. I'm getting returns from two individuals. I think the email addresses are not correct. So I'm getting returns. Basically those mails are getting bounced back. So other than that, no other returns from any other emails. So I'm presuming all the other email addresses are correct. And for those email addresses, I'm giving the rights. So if you access the link through the email, then I don't think there'll be an issue. Right. So how many of you have done this question? Use it both methods. Now let's try to do it. Let's first do it by using indirect method because that is more familiar to us than direct method. And then we'll go to direct method. Right, indirect method. So I hope all of you can see my Excel screen, right? Yes, all of you can see the Excel screen. So we are starting with net income. Net income. So net income, we know net income has been given to us. Net income is 84,000. Net income is 84,000. So in the indirect method, what we do for net income, we first make adjustments on uncashed items. Adjustments for uncashed. Adjustments for uncashed items. So one uncashed item in the calculation of profits is depreciation and amortization. Depreciation and amortization. Depreciation and amortization, we add back 35,000. Then there's a gain on sale of asset, 5,000, that we need to deduct. Since it is a gain, we need to deduct. Gain on sale of asset. It is minus 5,000. Then we can go to working capital changes. We can get a subtotal here. Working capital changes, plus or minus. Right. So basically, as working capital, we are only considering the changes in current assets and current liabilities other than cash. So we can start with receivables. Receivables, I hope you have seen the question. Okay, receivables from year 1 to year 2, it has increased by 9,000. So you know if a current asset has increased, it's a negative cash flow. Increase in receivables. Increase in receivables minus 9,000. Inventory has decreased. It's a positive cash flow. Decrease of inventory or decrease in inventory. 6,000. Then we have prepaid expenses. Now that again has decreased. Decrease in prepaid expenses. 3,000. Then other assets are all non-current assets, plant assets, accumulated depreciation, intangible assets. Those are all non-current assets. So those are not current assets. Then coming into current liabilities, we have accounts payable decrease by 5,000. Decrease in accounts payable. So that has decreased. It's a negative cash flow. Then increase in accrued expenses. Increase in accrued expenses. That is 4,000 plus. Then other liabilities are long-term liabilities such as long-term notes payable, mortgage payable, preference shares, common ordinary shares, retained profits, etc. So these are the working capital changes. I can take the total here. That is minus 1,000. Net change is minus 1,000. So here I can calculate net cash flow from operating activities. Net cash flow from operating activities, I will say OA. $113,000. So this is the net cash flow from operating activities. Now I can move into investment activities. Investment activities. Right. Now tell me. So I'll put the presentation back. Okay. I will share it again. Is there a new investment? Is there a new investment during the year? Is there a new investment during the year? Is there a disposal? Is there a disposal? Yes, there's a disposal. There's a note for that. The value of the asset which was disposed is 10,000. In other words, this 10,000 value is included in the cost of the asset in year 1. In other words, in year 1, under the cost of the asset, this value of 10,000 is there. So that 10,000 value worth of asset, 10,000 value worth of asset, you have sold. You have sold. So removing that, now you have to see whether there is an increase in non-current assets after removing that 10,000. So basically, from 350,000, you need to remove 10,000. So that becomes 340,000. End of year 2, plant assets has increased to 440,000. Basically, it means from 340,000, non-current assets has increased by 100,000. So it's an increase by 100,000. It is a negative cash flow. So basically, this is what we can do, right? So I will put the workings here. Non-current assets, cost of, okay, cost of non-current assets, end of year 1, 350,000. 350,000. From this, we need to remove cost of the asset disposed. Cost of the asset disposed 10,000. Remaining non-current assets 340,000. Non-current assets at the end of year 2, 440,000. Therefore, additional investments in non-current assets. Difference between this and this, 100,000. So I can put here additional investments. Additional investments in non-current assets, 100,000. It's a negative cash flow. And thereafter, we are told in the note, if you go to the note, you can see the previous asset was sold for 7,000. Previous asset was sold for 7,000. So that's the cash inflow. Disposal value of the previous asset. It's a cash inflow 7,000. Right now, there is one more thing which we need to do. Right now, this is about the cost of the asset. Now let's do the same thing for accumulated depreciation. We know accumulated depreciation, end of year 1. As per the question, it is 125,000. Accumulated depreciation end of year 1, 125,000. From this, we need to remove the depreciation of the accumulated depreciation of the asset disposed. Accumulated depreciation of the disposed asset. Which is 2,000. Net book value is 2,000. It says cost is 10,000, net book value 2,000, which means accumulated depreciation of the asset disposed 8,000. Accumulated depreciation of the disposed asset 8,000. So remaining accumulated depreciation. This minus this, 117,000. Now I can put accumulated depreciation at the end of year 2, which is 145,000. So this means depreciation for year 2. 28,000. Depreciation for year 2, 28,000. Now, let me take you back to the question. You will see in the P&L, depreciation and amortization 35,000. Depreciation and amortization 35,000. But current year depreciation is only 28,000. So what is the remaining 7,000? What is the remaining 7,000? Depreciation and amortization 35,000. Current year depreciation I showed you 28,000. So what is the remaining 7,000? What is the remaining 7,000? Come on, somebody tell me, please. Tell me, what is the remaining 7,000? Amortization. Yes, where is that amortization? It is here. I hope you can see. It is here. It is this 7,000. Can you see? In year 1, intangible assets 58,000, year 2, 51,000, which means between the 2 years, intangible assets are amortized by 7,000. So depreciation 28,000, amortization 7,000. That is how you get this 35,000. Is that clear? Depreciation 28,000, amortization 7,000. 7,000 is the difference between these two figures. So 28,000 plus 7,000, altogether 35,000, both are non-cash. That is why we have added back. Now, is that clear? Right. So I can put here amortization in year 2. Amortization in year 2. So total depreciation and amortization. Total depreciation and amortization. The sum of these two, 35,000. Right? So remember that. So basically, now what you can understand from this transaction is the company has sold an existing asset of which net book value is 2,000 for 7,000, and they have realized a gain. So gain is not cash, therefore we have added, so therefore we have deducted. It is already included in the profit, but it is not a cash item, so therefore we have deducted. The disposal proceeds of 7,000 we have taken as a cash inflow. Other than the asset that we have disposed, we have purchased a new asset for 100,000 rupees. So that is a new investment, that's a cash outflow. So are we clear? Are we clear? Are we clear? Right. So now I can take the net cash flow from investment activities. Net cash flow from investment activities. Minus 93,000. Now I can move into finance activities. So I will show you the question again. Now tell me, what are the financing cash flows? What are the financing cash flows here? What are the financing cash flows here? Let's go from the beginning. During the year, the company has taken a new loan. Am I right? During the year, the company has taken a new loan, or let's say new note payable. They have taken a new note payable. What is the value? 30,000. That's the cash inflow. During the year, they have settled a mortgage. 150,000. That's a cash outflow. During the year, they have issued preference shares. That's a cash inflow. During the year, no change in the common stock, ordinary shares. So no change from the ordinary shares. Retained earnings, we can't take to cash flow, but something relating to profits, we need to take to the cash flow. What is that? Dividends. Now, how much of dividends have they paid during the year? How much of dividends have they paid during the year? They have paid, it is very clearly given, they have paid dividends of 51,000. So that's the financing cash flow. So finance activities, I can say one by one. Increase in note payable. Increase in note payable. That's a cash inflow. Then decrease in mortgage. Minus 150,000. Then increase in preference shares. Increase in preference shares. 175,000. 175,000. No change in ordinary shares. Retained earnings, I told you, with regard to retained earnings, you are taking dividends paid. Dividends paid 51,000. Dividends paid 51,000 minus. That's all basically. I can take the net cash flow from finance activities. net cash flow from finance activities. Net cash flow from finance activities 4,000. So now I can take the cumulative net cash flow, total net cash flow for the period. Total net cash flow for the period. That is basically the sum of net cash flow from operating activities, net cash flow from investment activities, and net cash flow from finance activities. So total net cash flow for the period 24,000. To this, I need to add the opening cash balance. Opening cash balance. So opening cash balance is 51,000. Therefore, I get the closing cash balance. That is 75,000. Okay, so let me show you the question again. You can see the cash balance now. Can you see it? Closing cash balance 75,000. Can you see it here? Closing cash balance 75,000. Is that right? Is it clear? Come on. Closing cash balance, you can see 51,000 changed to 75,000 by 24,000. So basically from the cash flow statement, we've analyzed how this 24,000 comes. Is this clear? Right. Well, go back to the Excel sheet, right? Now, one more working about the retained earnings, okay? How much is the opening retained earning? Opening retained earnings, opening RE, opening retained earnings, 22,000. I will show you that also, right? Opening retained earnings, 22,000. How much is the net profit or net income during the period? Net income during the period. For our cash flow also, we have taken net income during the period, this figure, 84,000. Dividends paid. We are paying dividends from the retained earnings. Dividends paid. Dividends paid 51,000. So we can calculate the closing retained earnings. Basically, opening retained earnings plus net income plus or minus dividends paid. Closing retained earnings 55,000. Okay, you can see in the question also. Closing retained earnings 55,000. Can you see that? Closing retained earnings 55,000. 22,000 has increased to 55,000. So is this clear? Is this clear? Is this clear? Now this is how we prepare the cash flow statement based on the indirect method. Now let's see what will be the changes when you prepare the cash flow statement under direct method. So as I told you, sorry, I think. So this should come to indirect method. Okay. That was under indirect method. Right. So direct method, as I told you, the only difference is in the way of calculating the operating cash flow. So I will first write it down here. In the direct method, only the way of calculating operating cash flows will change. Investment cash flows and financing cash flows The financing cash flows will not change. Will not change. Let's see. Okay. Under direct method, what will happen under the operating cash flows? So in the direct method, as the name says, we are taking the cash flows directly. In other words, not indirectly, we are taking operational cash flows directly. In other words, we are calculating how much we received from customers, how much we paid to suppliers, how much we paid for expenses. In that way, we are trying to arrive at the same cash flow directly. So I can say here, basically there will be three lines. Cash inflow from customers. Then cash outflow or cash payment, cash outflow to suppliers. These are the suppliers for the goods that they provided, okay? Cash outflow to suppliers. Then cash payment of expenses. Only three lines. Cash payment of expenses. And you should get the operating cash flow. So based on the given information, can you calculate these three figures? Can you calculate these three figures? I will give you one more time. Can you calculate these three figures based on the given information? Under the direct method. So are we done? Let me show you that also. Right, cash inflow from customers. Basically, we need to calculate these figures from workings. Okay. Right. Now we know we are receiving money from customers. So for that, we need to have the opening balance as well as the closing balance. So opening balance will be the balance at the end of year one. Receivables at the end of year one. Receivables at the end of year one. That is 39,000. We know the value of sales. Sales during the year. From the P&L, we know sales during the year 660,000. And receivables at the end of year two. Receivables at the end of year two. That also we know 48,000. So we can now calculate cash received from customers. Cash received from customers. So basically 39,000 plus 660 minus 48. 651,000. Cash received from customers 651,000. Right? Now cash payment to suppliers. Let's say working one. Working two. Cash payment to suppliers. Now cash payment to suppliers also in the same format. For that you need to first take accounts payable. I will say AP. Okay. AP at the end of year one. AP at the end of year one. AP at the end of year one, 56,000. Purchases during the year. Purchases during the year. Now, we don't have the purchase figure, so that we need to calculate. Let's see how to do it later. Then AP at the end of year two, that is 51,000. Now, we need to have another working here because we don't have the purchase value. So, we have to first calculate the purchase value. We know purchases we adjust under cost of sales. Purchases we adjust under cost of sales. In other words, how we arrive at the cost of sales. To the opening stocks, we are adding the purchases and we are deducting the closing stocks. So we have opening stocks or inventory at the end of year one. Inventory at the end of year one. Inventory at the end of year one. So inventory at the end of year one, all from the P&L and the balance sheet given. Okay. Inventory at the end of year one, 60,000. So let's say we don't have the purchases still. Then inventory at the end of year two. Inventory at the end of year two, which is 54,000. And I know my cost of sales. Cost of sales is 363,000. So I know the final figure. So this is a missing figure. So how do I calculate this? Cost of sales plus closing stock minus opening stock. So I have the purchase figure 357,000, which I can bring here. Now I can calculate cash paid to suppliers. Simply AP at the end of year one. To that we add in purchases during year two and we are deducting AP at the end of year two. So cash paid to suppliers 362,000. That also I can put here. It's a negative answer because it's a cash outflow. Cash paid to suppliers. Now, cash payment of expenses. Cash payment of expenses. Now, how to calculate that? How to calculate that? Based on what? Tell me. Cash payment of expenses. Based on what? Tell me. Come on, tell me. Cash payment of expenses, how do you calculate? Based on what? So I share the question again. Based on what? Cash payment of expenses. How you calculate? I'm asking cash payment of operating expenses, okay? In other words, out of this 183,000, how much is the cash involvement? How much is the cash component? I am not taking depreciation and amortization. I'm not taking gain. Out of 183,000 operating expenses, I want to know the cash involvement. So how should I adjust? Based on what? Based on what? Based on both accruals and prepayments. Accruals and prepayments. So here now I need to take both. So what I'm going to do is, this will be slightly different because here I need to take, let me show it through an account. Then it will be easier for you to understand. Right now, let's assume this is the account. Okay. Now here I have an opening balance of accruals as well as a prepayment. So balance brought forward, let's say accruals. Brought forward accruals. So brought forward accruals, 14,000. Then I have brought forward prepayments. Brought forward prepayments, that will be 9,000. Then at the end of the year also I have carried down values. Now this will be the other way, okay? Carried down accruals. Carried down accruals, and this will be carried down prepayment. So carried down accruals, 18,000. Carried down prepayments, 6,000. And we know the expense. We know the P&L expense, 183,000. That has been transferred to profit and loss account. So now we can balance this account. In order to calculate the missing figure. $176,000. This is the cash paid amount. So it's a negative value. $176,000. And now you can take the operating cash flow, which is the sum of these three. You can see exactly 113,000. Same as the previous answer. Is this clear? You can cross check here. Operating cash flow, see 113,000. 113,000 indirect method. Here also 113,000. Now, is this clear? Come on, is this clear? Right. So basically, other cash flows are same. Investment cash flows, financing cash flows are same. Only difference in the two methods is the way you calculate the operating cash flow. So in the indirect method, this is how you calculate. You adjust the non-cash items such as depreciation, amortization, gain or losses, and then you do the working capital changes. So in the indirect method, this is how you calculate the net cash flow from operating activities. The direct method, very straightforward. How much you received from customers, how much you pay to suppliers, how much of expenses you actually pay, and then you calculate the operating cash flow. So are we clear? Are we clear? Are we clear? Right. So why this is important? Why calculating the operating cash flow is important to us? Because operating cash flow will tell us how viable the operation is or how profitable the operation is. Now, what can you say about the profitability of the operation here or viability of the operation here? From customers they collected, or they collected last year 651,000. So suppliers they paid 362. Expenses 176. So operating cash flow 113,000. So what can you say about the viability of operations, feasibility of operations? Can you be happy about the way that they're operating the business? Can you be happy about the way that they're conducting the business? Come on, tell me. There's a positive operating cash flow. Cash collected from customers 651,000. Cash paid to suppliers 362. Operating cash flow. Operating other cash expenses 176,000. So net operating cash flow positive 113,000. So can you be happy about the way that they're doing the operations? Come on, these are the things you need to ask. Can you be happy about the way that they're doing the operations? Can you be happy about the way that they're doing the operations? Come on, tell me. Yes, we can be happy because basically from the operations, they have generated a positive operating cash flow. That's an operating cash surplus. So an operating cash surplus means from the operations, they save something. From the operations, they save something for the investments as well as for financing cash flows. So if the operating cash flow is a negative cash flow, then of course we have to be really worried. Why we have to be worried? Because if the operating cash flow is negative, it means to support the operations, you need to have funds. Now here, you don't need to have too much of funds to support the operations because the operations in itself support the way the business is being conducted. If it is a negative cash flow, then of course it's a dangerous situation. So are we clear? Is that clear? If the operating cash flow is negative, it's a dangerous situation because it means to support the operations, to support your working capital, you need to grow. Now here, of course, from your operations, you are generating a surplus, which can self-finance, which can self-finance. So are we clear? Are we clear? Is this clear? If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, please ask. Is this clear? Come on, tell me. Right, so let me put a sentence or two here. I will say, since the operating cash flow is a positive value, the company doesn't need to borrow. The company doesn't need to borrow to support the operations. The operations can take care of, we'll say like this, the operations in itself can take care of the operations without needing to borrow. Without needing to borrow from outside. Without needing to borrow from outside. If the operating cash flow is a negative cash flow, it's a dangerous situation. To support the operations, within brackets, to pay suppliers, and for other cash expenses, the company has to borrow if the operating cash flow is negative. In this instance, there is no such need. So are we clear? If the operating cash flow is a negative cash flow, it's a dangerous situation. Why it is dangerous? To support the operations, which means to pay suppliers and to pay other cash expenses, the company has to borrow if the cash flow is negative. But in this case, it is positive, so there is no such a need. So are we clear? Come on. Is this clear? Right. So let's go back to the presentation. So basically the same working you can see here. Okay, interpreting cash flows and net income. An income statement records revenues when earned and expenses when incurred, that we know. It does not show the timing of the cash inflows and outflows, nor the effect of operations on liquidity and solvency. So cash flow from operations, CFO, is a broader view of operating activities than net income. It's not a measure of profitability. A net measure, be it net income or cash flow from operations, is of limited usefulness. The key is information about components of this net measure. So we have to basically see what we can, or what kind of information or what kind of inferences that we can obtain from different components when we are analyzing a statement of cash flow. Right. In evaluating sources and uses of cash, the analyst should focus on questions like this. Are asset replacements financed from internal or external funds? So which is better? Are asset replacements financed from internal or external funds? Which is better? Which is better? Which is better? Tell me. Are asset replacements financed from internal or external funds? Now come on, tell me which is better. Internal funds. Now, in this particular question, they have financed the investments based on which funds? Internal funds or external funds? Let me take you back to the cash flow. So this is the full cash flow and indirect method. Now tell me, this organization, they have financed. See, now they have invested 100,000 in new assets. This 100,000 investment in new assets, how they have financed? From internal funds or from external funds? Tell me how they have financed. From internal funds or from external funds? Come on, tell me. How they have financed this 100,000? I would say from a mix of both. From a mix of both. Now, why I say from a mix of both? It is because of this. Now, see, they required 100,000. They required 100,000. How much? How much of this 100,000 they may have obtained from external funds? How much of this 100,000 they may have obtained from external funds? How much of this 100,000 they may have obtained from external funds? I would say about 50,000. About 50,000. Why? Now, see these three. Now, these are the movements of long-term debt. These are the movements of long-term debt. Now, what is the net total? Net total, you can see here 55,000. You have issued notes payable. You have settled a mortgage. You have issued preference shares. So, if you take these three, net total is how much? 55,000. So, it is quite possible that out of this 100,000, they have obtained 55,000 out of long-term funds. They have obtained 55,000 out of long-term funds. Balance out of what? Tell me. Balance out of what? Out of 100,000, about 55,000 we can safely assume from long-term funds. Balance out of what? Tell me, come on. Oh, wait. What you can do is you can put this also. Because now this 7,000 you have received after selling an existing asset. So let's assume you are putting the 7,000 also to buy the new asset. So altogether, from long-term funds, I would say you have collected 62,000. Is this clear? You sold an existing asset, you collected 7,000. I can assume that the company has used that 7,000 also to buy the new asset. So altogether, from long-term funds, you have collected how much? Altogether, from long-term funds, they have collected how much? They have collected 62,000. So I can say here, analysis of new investment. Analysis of the new investment. So I can say here, out of 100,000, let's say out of 100,000, the company has obtained, out of 100,000, the company has obtained 62,000 from long-term sources. From long-term sources. So what do you mean by long-term sources? Disposal proceeds and changes in long-term liabilities. Changes in long-term liabilities. So it means they have collected another 38,000 out of what? They have collected another 38,000 out of what? Tell me. They have collected another 38,000 out of operating cash flows. Remaining 38,000. Remaining 38,000 has been collected from operating cash flows. Right now, let me show you. Now, how much is the operating cash flow? How much is the operating cash flow? The operating cash flow is 113,000. Now, how they have distributed this 113,000? Out of this 113,000, they paid dividends. They paid dividends of how much? 51,000. Out of 113,000, they paid dividends of 51,000. And they saved how much? They saved 24,000. Basically, the balance, what they have done? They have spent to purchase the non-current assets. So I can analyze the operating cash flows. Analysis of the use of operating cash flows. Analysis of the use of operating cash flows. So operating cash flows 113,000. Operating cash flows 113,000. So how they have spent this? Paid dividends. They paid dividends of 51,000. They saved. They saved means didn't spend. Didn't spend 24,000, and the balance 38,000 they spent on non-current assets. So if you take these three, if you take the total of these three, you will see it is exactly 113,000. So are we clear? Are we clear? Come on, are we clear? Right. So if I ask you a question, if I ask a simple question, now forget about the value. Now out of 100,000 here, 62,000 they have collected from long-term funds, 38,000 from operating cash flow. Now normally, what is the capital structure? If I ask you, what is the capital structure? What is the capital structure? In other words, how much from external funding, how much from internal funding? How much from external funding, how much from internal funding? From external funding, how much? Capital structure, okay? Sorry. Value of the new asset. Value of the new asset, 100,000. Now, how we have financed this? From internal funds, and external funds. From external funds, how much? Tell me. Tell me correctly, okay? From external funds, how much? From external funds, how much? From external funds, how much? From external funds, remember it is not 62,000, it is 55,000. Why? Earlier I have put this 7,000 in order to analyze the operating cash flow usage. But even that 7,000 is internally generated, that you haven't borrowed. So how you finance this 100,000? From external funds, 55,000. From internal funds, 45,000. That is 38,000. That is this 38,000 plus that 7,000. This is 38,000 plus 7,000. Here, if you want, if it is confusing, you can say 62,000 minus 7,000. So basically, capital structure, how they are financing, from internal funds 45%, external funds 55%. Are we clear? Now, is that clear? Right, okay, fine. Let's go back to the presentation. So, asset replacement finance of internal or external funds. What are the financing sources of expansion and business acquisitions that we have discussed? Is the company dependent on external financing? What are the company's investing demands and opportunities? What are the requirements and types of financing? All of that we have discussed. Right. Inferences from analysis of cash flows include where management committed its resources, where management committed its resources, where they have invested or where they are going to invest, where it is going to divest, where it reduced investments, where additional cash was derived from, the size, composition, pattern, and stability of operating cash flows, etc. All these things we have discussed. So alternative cash flow measures, very important. Alternative cash flow measures, EBITDA. Now, what do you mean by EBITDA? EBITDA is a P&L measure. EBITDA is a P&L measure, but EBITDA we also take as a cash flow measure because here we take profits before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So EBITDA means EBITDA, that is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Of course, we don't take depreciation and amortization, and also we take profit before interest as well as tax. So this is basically operating profit. Operating profit before tax. Because for operating profits, we don't take interest. For operating profits, if it is related to cash flows, we don't take depreciation as well as amortization. And here we take operating profits before tax also. So basically, EBITDA means operating profit before taxation, amortization, and depreciation. You have to remember, operating profits, of course, will not include interest. So are we clear? EBITDA is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So basically, net income. Now, there, of course, it's a different meaning. Okay, so let me explain that. Now, EBITDA is earnings. I think once also I have explained this, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. Basically, it is another name. It is another name. It is another name for operating cash flow. Operating cash flow before tax. Before tax. So this line is very important. This sentence is very important. Operating cash flow before tax. Since it is a cash flow, since it is a cash flow, depreciation and amortization anyway not taken. Anyway not taken. Okay. So I'm now analyzing the definition. Okay. Since it is a cash flow, we don't anyway take depreciation and amortization. Since it is operating cash flow, we don't take interest. We don't take interest. And basically, we are taking operating cash flow before tax. We don't take the tax cash flow. So, very easy. What you have to understand is simply EBITDA means operating cash flow before tax. Operating cash flow before tax. So, since it is operating cash flow, we don't take interest. Since it is a cash flow, we don't take depreciation and amortization. And anyway, we don't take tax. So, it is operating cash flow before tax, depreciation, and amortization. So, are we clear? Are we clear? If you have any doubts, you can ask EBITDA. Is that clear? Right. So EBITDA, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization. Simply remember, it is the operating cash flow before tax. So issues with EBITDA. Problems with this measure. The using of long-term depreciable assets is a real expense which must not be ignored. I will explain what it is. Adding back of depreciation expense does not generate cash. It merely zeroes out the non-cash expense from net income as discussed above. So cash is provided by operating and financing activities, not by depreciation. So net income plus depreciation ignores changes in working capital, which comprise the remainder of net cash flows from operating activities, yet changes in working capital accounts often comprise a large portion of cash flows from operating activities. So basically, the same cash flow statement analysis based on EBITDA, they are explaining here. So if you take point number 1, the using of long-term depreciable assets is a real expense which must not be ignored. So here, in the EBITDA calculation, understand carefully, in the EBITDA calculation, you know we don't take depreciation. But what do you mean by depreciation? Depreciation is basically an allocation of cash or allocation of profits to replace the assets in the future. In other words, when we are using long-term assets, we are setting aside a particular amount to replace these assets when they become fully worn out. So although it is not cash, although we are adding back depreciation when we calculate EBITDA, depreciation is an expense which we cannot forget. Depreciation is an important expense. That is why we include depreciation when we calculate profits. Remember, I told you at the beginning, out of profits and cash, which is more relevant? Profits are more relevant. Why profits are more relevant than cash? Because of expenses like this. Now, for the cash flow, we don't take depreciation, but for the profit, we include depreciation. Why? Depreciation is important. Why depreciation is important? Because you have to set aside a particular amount to replace these assets when they are fully worn out. That day will come. That day will soon come. That day will come in the future. So when that day comes, you need to have adequate profits to replace assets. So that is why even though we are adding back depreciation, what you have to understand is depreciation is a relevant expense. Okay. The add back of depreciation expense does not generate cash. So we are adding back depreciation. Now, what you have to understand is this, okay? So when we add back depreciation, of course, our operating cash flow increases, the figure increases. But simply because we are adding back depreciation, do we generate additional cash? Do we generate additional cash? We are adding back depreciation in accounting in order to show the cash flow. Yes, depreciation is not a cash flow. So to prove the cash flow, we are adding back depreciation. Just because we have added back depreciation, does it mean we are generating additional cash? No, we are not generating additional cash. We are adding back depreciation for accounting purpose only. We are adding back depreciation to show depreciation is not a cash item. So we are adding back depreciation to show the cash flow, to show the figure only. But just because we have added back depreciation, we are not increasing our cash. Please understand that. Are we clear? Are we clear? Come on, are we clear? Tell me, is that clear? Right. So net, this last point, net income plus depreciation, okay? Net income plus depreciation, which means if we add back depreciation, ignore changes in working capital accounts, which comprise the remainder of net cash flows from operating activities. Yet changes in working capital accounts often comprise a large portion of cash flows from operating activities. So when we calculate EBITDA, understand, okay? When we calculate EBITDA, the operating profits, we adding back depreciation, we don't consider changes in cash flow. But you understand, a large portion of operating cash flow comes from where? A large portion of operating cash flow comes from working capital changes. Okay. Now, what we are discussing now, points we are discussing now are the issues with EBITDA. Point number one, we are adding back depreciation, but in actual fact, depreciation is important. We are adding back depreciation, but depreciation, even if we add back, does not generate additional cash. We are adding back depreciation only, and we are forgetting the changes in working capital. But we need to understand, when we take the operating cash flows of a business, bulk of the operating cash flows are generated from what? Changes in working capital. Are we clear? Are we clear? Are we clear? Tell me, I can explain if it is not clear. Is this clear? Is this clear? These are the issues with EBITDA. These things can come, okay? These things can come. Right, now let's move into free cash flow. So what do you mean by free cash flow? See how the free cash flow is generated, or how the free cash flow is defined. This is the cash flow from operations minus net cash expenditure required to maintain. In other words, from free cash flow, we need to remove, or we need to deduct net capital expenditure, and also we need to remove dividends on preference shares as well as on ordinary shares, as we mean the payout policy. So the difference is what is called as free cash flow. Are we clear? From the cash flow from operations, okay, from the operating cash flow minus what? Net capital expenditure. Net capital expenditure, in other words, net investments minus dividends on preference shares and ordinary shares. Now this is what is called as free cash flow. So can you calculate the free cash flow for our question? Free cash flow for our question. How do we calculate the free cash flow here? Free cash flow. That will be 113,000. Okay. Net cash flow from investments, that is basically minus 93,000. Then dividends. So can you see, although we have a positive net cash flow, we have a positive net cash flow of 4,000, we have a free cash flow of minus 31,000. What is this? Are these issues same for the net income when calculation begins with net income? Yeah. So the problems we discussed earlier, we discussed with regard to EBITDA figure only. Okay. So EBITDA is what? EBITDA is the operating cash flow before tax. So there are some issues in the now. Why we need EBITDA? Because EBITDA is an important calculation. EBITDA says operating cash flow before tax. But although we take EBITDA as a good measure, we need to also understand the problems of EBITDA. Many people use EBITDA for various valuations. Many people use EBITDA to compare various organizations. Although we may use EBITDA, you need to also understand the drawbacks of EBITDA. So earlier we discussed the problems of EBITDA. Okay. Now here, what you have to understand is that the free cash flow is negative. See, net cash flow is positive 24,000, but free cash flow is negative 31,000. Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Come on, tell me. Why the overall cash flow is positive? Why the overall cash flow is positive? Overall cash flow is positive because of these three. Do you understand how much is these three? These three is plus 55,000. So to minus 31,000, when you add plus 55,000, you get plus 24,000. Can you see? So this is a positive figure. Overall cash flow is a positive figure. It's not because of free cash flow is positive. It's because we have additionally borrowed. We have additionally borrowed during the year 55,000. So because of new borrowings of 55,000, overall cash flow is positive 24,000. But free cash flow is negative 31,000. Is that clear? Is that clear? Now this is what you need to understand. Overall cash flow may be positive, but still free cash flow can be negative. Are we clear? Come on, tell me, is this clear? Is this clear? Is this clear? Come on, tell me. Come on, tell me, is this clear? Right. Right, now let's go back to the presentation. Free cash flow. Last slide, this is free cash flow. So positive free cash flow reflects the amount available for business activities after allowances for financing and investing requirements to maintain productive capacity at the current levels. So growth and financial flexibility depend on the adequate free cash flow. So as I told you, as we have discussed earlier, if you have a negative free cash flow, it means, of course, you need to borrow in order to maintain productive capacity. But if you have positive free cash flow, it means you are generating money from your operations. See, positive free cash flow reflects the amount available for business activities after allowances for financing and investment requirements to maintain productive capacity at current levels. So if you have a positive free cash flow, it's a good indicator. It means you are generating sufficient money from operations in order to pay dividends, in order to pay interest, and also to meet the new investment requirements. But if you have a negative free cash flow, it means for your new investments, you need to borrow. So are we clear? Are we clear? Is this clear? Right. So very important, the knowledge about free cash flow. Okay. Very important that you understand what free cash flow means and also why we need to analyze free cash flows in order to determine the profitability from operations of an organization. So basically, this is about the cash flow analysis. This is the last slide, I think. Yeah, this is the last slide. So with that, we can finish today's presentation. We can finish today's analysis. So any questions that any of you are having on the cash flow analysis? Any question that any of you are having on the cash flow analysis? Preparation of cash flow statements under any of the methods, interpretation of the cash flow statement, inferences from the cash flow statement or the free cash flow. Any questions that any of you are having? We can discuss now. One is asking, is EBITDA the operating cash flow before tax or the operating profit before tax? Now, EBITDA is operating cash flow before tax because we are adding back depreciation and amortization. We are taking earnings before in you. If you take it as a profit measure, what you need to understand is you need to understand it as a profit before depreciation and amortization. But normally profits include those two. So since we are adding back those two also, it is more like the operating cash flow. Is that clear? So if you have any questions, yes, please ask. If you have any questions, you can ask now, please. So is everything clear? Is the today's discussion clear? Now, what I can do, I mean, as for the sharing of the videos, what I can do is I can still send you the email. From my personal email, I can send you an email giving each of you access to download the video. But what will happen is if I put the link in LMS, then of course, if you click on the link to go to the video, then obviously it might ask the permission. That you need to check with the IT department. I also check from my end with as to what we can do, right, with the department's IT department. So is there anything that you need to check? If something is unclear, yes, you can go ahead and ask, please. Is this clear? Is the presentation today clear to you? Right. So if you don't have any questions, if it is clear, then I'm going to stop the presentation today and I'm going to save the materials. I'm going to send these materials to you through email, and also I'm going to put these things in the LMS. But if you want to access the video through the LMS, you may encounter a technical problem. Please discuss that with the IT department in the university. I can talk to the IT person, the IT manager of the Department of Accounting. From him, I mean, with him, I will see what I can do in order to correct the problem that you all are experiencing through LMS. Okay, so with that, so if you don't have any questions, we'll wind up today's session, right? So is that all right? Is that all right? Right. So then, thank you very much. Right. Good evening to all of you. Right. So I'll see you again next week. Right.